People talk about getting a revenge body after a breakup. I'm like, get a revenge soul. Become everything that relationship you sought. Become everything that you gave away. Become everything that your heart and your soul is calling you towards. When will you do that? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mark Groves Podcast. This week, I'm coming at you with a solo episode, and I want to point out that I actually recorded a solo episode a couple weeks ago, sent it off to get edited for publication, and apparently I had no audio on there. And I thought to myself, well, that sucks, and I guess I just wasn't meant to share that message, and that's totally okay. I actually don't even remember what I had recorded about, and it just reminded me of so much that the universe sort of guides you. Things don't work out, but they work out. And I have to always remind myself of that too, that what we consider rejection is redirection. And these challenges that we face in our lives are just normal. I think we've created this narrative or this idea that life should be pain-free or it should be challenge-free. And that's really a sign that you're, living a good life, or that's the ultimate goal. But one just has to live life for a couple moments and maybe even watch the news or hear about someone else's experience. And you realize that life isn't about feeling good all the time. And that's an unfortunate but liberating truth, because if your expectation is to feel good all the time, you're going to be disappointed very quickly. And so life is about orienting our life towards what feels positive, what feels good. And that's the value of emotion, the value of our environment, the value of our experiences is to inform us, to direct our choices, to see what actually matters to us. The value of the experience is to figure out what your values are, what you want to do with your life, what kind of relationships you want to create. And so many of us have this desire to create something, or we make a declaration that we want to, or we feel something like, I feel like I drink too much, and yet I keep drinking. And I feel like I want to create a fulfilling relationship, yet the one I'm in, I'm not trying, or I have toxic behavior patterns, or I'm settling. I'm living within a relationship container that can't possibly create the type of relationship I want. So whenever we have this desire, I want to create this, or I have information about a choice I'm making, and yet I stay in the thing. So if I desire this thing, but yet I stay in something that's not it, or I act in a way that's not in accordance with what I might call my higher self, or maybe soul, or God, or whatever you want to call it. But these feelings that we have, this relationship, I need to learn better communication. Because everything you're creating in your life, you are co-creating, right? Like if you're in a relationship with someone who can't communicate, you are agreeing to be in a relationship with someone who can't communicate. And in some way, having to turn down the volume on yourself and your own communication. And then we feel like this relationship can't hold me, or doesn't have the ability, I'm not free to speak. We resent them, but really we're choosing to continue to be in relationships, choices that are not in highest alignment with what we're feeling called towards, right? So when we have this split, which what I want to create or what I'm feeling, like I said, the alcohol example is a pretty good one, or I use my phone too much. I still use my phone too much, right? This split. I feel like that relationship or that friendship feels very toxic, or they're an energy vampire, yet I still feed the relationship. I still feed the vampire. We know we're bleeding, and yet we leave ourselves wounded, which is so fascinating about the human experience. And that's why I said we can't expect that our life should always feel good, because we are always being brought to new awarenesses through the things that don't feel good. So if I resent or reject an emotional experience I'm having, then I can't change from it. I can't actually take in the valuable information that is bringing into my body, my life, my experience, that's informing me to do something, to change something, to become something. And don't we all leave so much of our potential on the table? And then we blame other people for our potential not being claimed, not being lived. I was having a conversation on Mind this morning, and it was so great. We were talking about this, like, orient your life around your soul, not your wounds. Orient your life around what your soul desires, not spending your life protecting yourself, right? Because then you're vigilant and you're always on guard, which isn't to dismiss the things that you're trying to protect yourself against. But if you're constantly looking for ways to not get hurt, you will not be creating ways to love, right? You'll be orienting around defensiveness, not expansion. And in that conversation, someone was saying, oh, yeah, like that voice, that calling, that you should quit alcohol, you should start a job, you should do this, you should live your passion, you should learn how to heal your defensiveness, you should learn boundaries. That's the higher self. And I was like, isn't that interesting that we make it higher as opposed to the self, right? And I've used that language myself, so I'm not criticizing anyone. But isn't that interesting that it is the higher self, yet it is the invitation to be ourselves? Just like that split that I've been talking about, the space between what you say you want, who you say you are, and who you're being and what you're choosing. That split, that space, is one of the greatest sources of addiction. It's one of the greatest sources of pain, emotional, mental, physical health issues, all because we have this split where we're not actually honoring ourselves. We're not actually listening to the information that's coming in and choosing differently. We're staying the same. And that's that split, right? Where all of a sudden my soul is like, hey, or higher self or whatever is like, hey, you got this potential and there's possibility here and you're not choosing it. And you're like, yeah, I know I'm not choosing it. And then you're like, give me more Miss Vicky's salt and vinegar chips. I know that one. Well, that's one of my greatest treatments. Gummy bears, as I've told you, another one where I overconsume things when I'm not consuming the knowledge that is available to me, when I'm not integrating the information that's available to me, when I'm not claiming the next step that is being presented to me. You know when you need one of those types of sleeps, like the kind that you really feel so refreshed when you wake up, but it also feels like you have a weighted blanket on you? Those are my favorite kinds of sleeps, and I've been using Cured Nutrition's CBN nighttime oil. As I've mentioned before, the Rise one is my favorite for focus and clarity, but the CBN nighttime oil is amazing. It's got 15 milligrams of full spectrum CBD with 5 milligrams of CBN, and those work together to create relaxation. They're good for stress reduction, and of course, it helps improve sleep. I fall asleep faster, I get a deeper, more restful sleep, and I wake up feeling really refreshed. So Cured right now is extending an exclusive offer to you. You get 20% off all their products. And so go to curednutrition.com/createthelove and use the code createthelove at checkout. So that's CURED nutrition.com/createthelove and make sure you use that code createthelove at checkout to save 20%. So one of my missions in the late part of 2022 is to kick sugar. So if you're like me and that's in your goals, but you still got a little bit of an affinity for some sweet goodness, you got a sweet tooth, and you want to satisfy it still without, giving into your sugar addiction, then what I use is Organifi Gold. And it's perfect timing because it's also good for sleep. So I have it kind of as a dessert, and it's a superfood tea. It's got 9 powerful, 100% organic whole food ingredients, and it is delicioso. It has turmeric, reishi, turkey tail mushrooms, ginger, all of those used for thousands of years for their medicinal benefits. And they're all designed to support rest, relaxation, recovery, repair, while being sort of jammed in a delicious beverage that satisfies my need for some sweetness. So I drink it right before bed. You just mix it with some hot water or some dairy, non-dairy milk, whatever is your jam. And it's a dessert-like drink that's guilt-free. I mean, does it get better? Yes, it does. Wait, there's more. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, vegan, non-GMO, all the things that people want. And it's glyphosate-free, which, we all want that. There's no doubt about that. So if you love golden milk and you want to add a delicious and nutritious component to your bedtime routine, then you need to try Organifi Gold. Go to Organifi.com/createthelove. That is Organifi.com/createthelove, and you save 20% off not just the Organifi Gold, but also all of Organifi's products. Someone asked me not too long ago, how do you decide what to do when you don't know what to do? How do you take the step when you don't know what the step is? It's such a great question, because when we decide to orient our lives around our soul and not our wounds, we're in a place that's foreign. Because now I'm being motivated by the things I want to create, not the things that I want to protect myself from. And a statement that I make when I'm in those circumstances is, Show me the way, I'll walk it. Show me the way, I'll walk it. And inevitably, the way shows up. And I wanted to share a quote that I saw on social media in the last couple weeks that I loved. Oh my God, it just spoke so much to my soul. And it's from Terrence McKenna. Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a featherbed. Whew, man, it's so good. I just love it because it's how nature works too. Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. It'll actually raise you. When you say yes to these things, when you say, I'm going to honor myself, when you say, I matter, because here is the deal. When you lay a boundary down that says, I matter, but you leave yourself in the circumstances, your choices says you don't. And this is the difference between intellectually having a desire and somatically living it, right? Like I can tell you, you matter. You're one of the most important people on the planet. You're the most important person to yourself. You're worthy of everything great in the world. And you can go, shit, that's pretty cool. I am. But if you don't choose that, if you don't make the choices that validate that, it's just words. It doesn't actually matter. It's just a dream. It's just a possibility. And I don't say just to minimize it, but I say just to say it's not integrated and it's not expressed. That's why I share that quote from Abraham Hicks all the time, which is, words don't teach, actions do. The words can lead you towards the recognition of something that has been unclaimed within you. I could say something in this podcast, in this conversation, in this video that you're like, yeah, that nails it. That feels right. That feels resonant. But what are you going to do with it? And isn't that the question that we're constantly left with whenever we realize a possible habit, a possible ritual, a joy, what joy brings us towards, or when we have pain and we try to deny the pain or treat it with something to numb it instead of asking it, what awareness has been brought into my life through this? What do I need to choose? And I ask you, something to consider in each choice you're making is this choice expanding me or constraining me? And there are really only two outcomes, right? Your choices are either creating something new for you and stepping towards your possibility, or they're keeping you the same or making you even smaller. And so you have to become so mindful and vigilant about that. Your vigilance is about orienting around your values, orienting around your dreams. That vigilance that says, I will no longer settle. I often say that one of the most important moments that we can have throughout our lives is this feeling that there's more. And this isn't to say that we shouldn't value what we have, because we know that saying, the grass is greener where you water it. Very valid saying, of course, where we invest in our relationships, we invest in ourselves. But is investing in your relationship not investing in yourself? Or the way that you think you're investing in your relationship, which is maybe taking it for granted or not showing up as your best self, blaming your relationship for your circumstances, as opposed to really claiming that space of responsibility that says, I'm choosing to stay in these circumstances. And that's not minimizing what you might have been taught that says those circumstances are tolerable or those circumstances are normal, quote unquote, or even your work that you dislike, because look around us. What is normal? Normal is disliking your work generally. Normal is sort of just acquiescing to a relationship that doesn't bring us alive. Normal is having daily habits where we get consumed by the news and consumed by social media, not consumed by possibility and our potential. That's normal. Do you want to be normal? When someone says I'm strange or I'm weird, I'm like, fuck yeah, I am fucking strange. I am fucking weird. I actually love this mug that has a quote from Alice in Wonderland where it says, you're entirely bonkers, but I'll tell you a secret. All the best people are. I love that. So you're entirely fucking bonkers. How do you like that? But all the best people are. Because you got to be crazy to step into this act of rebellion where you're no longer going to tolerate mediocrity from yourself. And that's why that experience or awareness of this doesn't feel good, or I feel like there's something more to this, it really is that you're now feeling the gap between what is possible for you and who you are and whatever you want in your life and what you haven't yet claimed or stepped towards. So this is the invitation to do that. Where are you split in your life? Where do you have knowledge? Like, I want more from work. I want more from love. I want more from myself. I need to heal my relationship with food. I need to heal my relationship with money. I need to heal my relationship with my body. I need to heal my relationship with social media and technology. I need to heal my relationship with my family. And healing doesn't always mean coming together. You see that? Sometimes healing is actually moving away from something, which means coming back together with yourself, restoring wholeness, because it is the gap that has us seek things that don't feel good about ourselves, right? To fill the space, to fill the split. And when we decide to move away from that thing, we step back towards our totality. So we come back to that quote, dream the impossible dream and the world will not grind you under, it will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done. By hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a featherbed. Man, I have to keep trusting in this truth, and it keeps validating itself. Man, it is so powerful to live on this edge and to be reminded of this edge. I have to live it with you, you know? I'm not preaching from some sort of pulpit. I'm saying, like, fuck, I'm in the trenches. I'm in the experience. You know, I think whenever someone says, I got it all figured out, or this is the laser lined, do these 5 things and you'll get 6 things and then another 12. It just requires this courageous alignment, this courageous stepping towards sometimes our values that we've never even really claimed. So our life can be already living totally out of alignment, and that feels normal because we grew up with people living totally out of alignment. So when we ask ourselves, what do I truly value? That can be the first time that instead of running from who we are, we stop. And there's this moment of grief, and maybe many moments, maybe anger too. Like, who taught me this? Where did I learn it? And you realize that you miss yourself so much. You realize that when you finally stop running from who you are and the truth of what you want and the truth of your circumstances, that there is an immense grief present, but it's one of those transformative griefs that says, welcome back. We missed you. We love you. We need you. And you know, that really is the act of the wounded child, the wounded adolescent running from the essence of our heart, the essence of our soul. And the adult says, I got you. I'm going to repair the split. I'm going to step into that space that feels so terrifying because I'm afraid I might lose it all. But you gain yourself, you gain so much. And that's why just laying a boundary can feel like this immense leap across a valley that feels like you can't even, the two peaks just can't meet. And it feels like such a giant thing when just learning the act of saying, no, that doesn't align, that doesn't fit for me. And someone in the session this morning on Mind, which we'll put the link in my bio, I go live generally every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. And we talk about these things. And if you love my solo episodes, I mean, then I go live every Sunday on that and talk about this. But someone said, I need to learn to say no to myself. And I said, look at the fascinating use of that language. It's punitive. It's to deny yourself something, as opposed to, because that's what we do, right? I need to deny myself that food. I need to deny myself that alcohol. I need to deny myself that phone. I need to deny myself that toxic relationship. I need to deny myself porn. I need to deny myself whatever. And as opposed to, I need to say yes to myself. Not no to myself, but like yes to what actually aligns, what I actually want, the behaviors that feel good, the ones that expand me. That's what I need to say yes to, not no to myself. I've been saying no to myself through those behaviors. I need to say yes to myself. So say yes to yourself. Claim the space, the potential that you've been chasing in other people. The greatest act of rebellion is to claim all of it. People talk about getting a revenge body after a breakup. I'm like, get a revenge soul. Become everything that relationship you sought. Become everything that you gave away. Become everything that your heart and your soul is calling you towards. When will you do that? As Tony Robbins says, we change because it hurts so much we have to, or we learn so much we have to, which learning so much that it hurts, really. But you don't have to wait for those things. Just the awareness of untapped potential creates pain, as I said. But don't wait it to hurt so much that self-abandonment becomes illness or depression, and we might already be there, so there's no shaming that. But we say, okay, you're here, now what? Or you're on your way there, now what? Stop running from who you are and become who you are. So that's the invitation. Say yes to yourself. So much love.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If this episode resonated with you, one of the best ways to support the show is to go subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any more. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to it, or share the episode with your community on Instagram or whatever social place you like to hang out. This helps get it into more people's ears, and I'm so grateful for your support, always. Thanks again for tuning in. Much love.